Hello, I'm Dr. Sam Graber, holistic perimenopause coach and curator of the Unraveling Together ecosystem. I help women in leadership scale their well being while they scale their impact. One critical factor to our successful collaboration is boundary work. Boundaries are difficult because they are not a set of hard and fast rules. Boundaries are factors of discernment, having a keen insight and good judgment about a situation or a specific scenario. They are meant to shift based on different scenarios. They're based on how we feel at that day, the state of our energy at the time, as well as the state of our emotions. Other factors also play a role. Factors like eating in a way that provides you the nutrition and energy you need. Are you well rested? Do you actually like this person, or are they like nails to a chalkboard as far as you're concerned? All of these factors matter. So boundaries are movable and flexible, and that's where their strength comes from. Now, when you look at boundary research, there is a scale that goes from integration to segmentation. That's how it's measured. And on this scale, segmentation is considered to be strong boundaries, but that doesn't necessarily mean good boundaries. I liken segmentation to being cut and dry. Now, integration is what it sounds like. It is when the lines are less cut and dry or not fleshed out much at all. Take work-life balance. Many of us work from home, and many of us have one device on which we get all our communications, for example, or we use our computer for both work and personal things, activities, etc. So this leaves the door wide open for an unwelcome guest. An energy vampire may show its fangs, so to speak, as we're trying to unwind from work stuff by scrolling social media. Oh, we all do it to some extent. So here's an example of an energy vampire we have all fallen victim to, and an excellent summation of what we're contending with. This is Colin Robinson, Draining Energy on the Internet from What We Do in the Shadows, Season 2, Episode 7.
One of the best ways to drain people's energy nowadays is via the internet. This woman is a astrophysicist. Actually, this is not how space works. Read a book. These are all different accounts that I have set up. The energy you get this way isn't quite as pure, but if you do enough of it, it'll fill you up. Shanghai stuck. Where was the Chinatown?
It's surprisingly simple to get total strangers completely furious with you.
You should get a life. When they call you a dumbass, you know you've got them. They called me a dumbass.
There's some kind of human nerd who is telling people to ignore me. I mean, he's getting my accounts suspended left and right. This will not stand. I mean, he's stealing my food. He just told people that I live in my mother's basement. Actually, I live in my own basement. Dumbass. Fired. No, he's getting to me.
Thank you, Colin. So a run-in with a Colin can last a few minutes or much longer if we don't have our boundaries locked and loaded. If our sense of self or our personal energy is on full that day, a Colin won't have much of an impact. But if and when our personal energy tank is closer to E, a Colin can derail even our best of intentions. More on this in a moment. Now, the happiest people sit on this scale from integration on the left to segmentation on the right. They sit a little bit left of center, so closer toward integration, but not by much. The challenge presents when our lives are largely integrated. This is why work-life balance is so difficult, right? See, integration is a happier place for us typically than segmentation. So we have to understand that if it is our happy zone, sometimes we need to set a boundary. So what we need to do actually is create more space, which often creates fear in people. We don't want to feel separated from others. We don't want to feel disconnected. So when we need to create more space, or if things are too segmented, the boundary practice that we need to have in that instance is more towards the integration. We need to invite someone in. Pretty much all our fears around boundaries are about the distance that we create. But half the work around boundaries is inviting people to be closer. Now, this creates some discomfort for people because boundaries would be a whole lot easier. Let's face it. If we could just say, I'm just going to say no to all the things, like I'll often say, channel your inner 2-year-old, they know how to say no. But it can't quite be our tried and true rule book, right? We'd love to say this is just going to be my rule book. I'm going to say no to everything and I'm going to follow my rules and I'm going to follow it well. And I'm just going to do the same thing the same way every time. But the truth of the matter is, you're not going to do it the same way every time. You're not even going to want to do it the same way every time. What you need is to know yourself well enough and to spend enough time in your own body, tuning into your own energy, in your own self awareness, to know if at any moment whether you need to invite something or someone in, integration, or that what you need is more segmentation. The only way to get better is to practice, like everything in life and business. Boundary violation is not just about people coming into your space in various ways, but also about people and things being too far away from your space. Now, this is quite the opposite of what we're taught about boundaries all the time. So, now, how do we get to great boundaries that work for us, and how do we know where we are on that continuum? And here's the kicker. How do we know where we need another person, place, or thing to be? I watched a really outstanding talk by Caitlin Donovan. She recommends we focus on resentment to ferret out where we need more integration and where segmentation would serve us better. Adjusting our spot on this integration to segmentation scale, essentially. Now, resentment is a charged word. There's a lot of shame associated with resenting anyone or anything, especially as a woman. Every one of us is resentful about something or someone in our lives. Let's just face that fact and sit with it. Now, we can get all judgy on ourselves, or we can use this feeling of resentment to our advantage. I am all about leveraging my strengths, so I'll choose the latter. Now, Kate notes that resentment has become the best tool for building her business and maintaining her relationships. She looks for resentment in everything she does. She says when she finds it, she celebrates it. Now, she does this because she knows she found something that needs some adjusting. And now that she's in the habit of doing so, she has data to show that when she adjusts it, like moving more into integration or segmentation, her life will be in better alignment with what she wants. Now, resentment, or the strong and painful bitterness you feel when someone does something wrong to you, doesn't have actual physical weight, but it feels very heavy and can last a long time. We are giving of our own personal energy to feed others, and many times, if not most, we weren't asked for our energy in the first place. How many of you go into nice mode on a dime? You know it would be nice to do such and such again because you always do such and such, even though nobody ever really appreciates your such and such, right? Welcome to the room, resentment. This is the notice stage that Kate refers to when creating internal boundaries. Or maybe you're the, oh, just let me do it gal, right? A mom or a spouse who just does whatever it is instead of waiting out the procrastination of a child or a husband. You know what I'm talking about. You do whatever it is, but welcome back, our new friend, resentment. She's back on scene, and your signal that there's a boundary that needs to be ferreted out here. Boundaries are, in a nutshell, physical and emotional limits that you don't want other people to cross. They help define your sense of self by separating your needs, desires, thoughts, and feelings from those of others. Boundaries are the dividing lines between you and everyone else, and they help make you an individual aside from the group. There's a reason this is a well-known phrase. Good fences make good neighbors. There are boundaries with the outside world, or external boundaries, and boundaries within ourselves, internal boundaries. We're going to focus on the internal variety because these are the ones that you can get the most practice with and the ones you solely control. They're also the squishiest, to use a phrase from our favorite human confetti cannon, Suzanne Castle. Now, these internal boundaries are often the ones we obliterate at the first sign of stress. We position ourselves on the back burner on autopilot. It's modeled for us everywhere we turn. We women put everyone and everything else first. and it costs us mightily. Now, I'm going to pause the video now and we'll do an exercise together. We'll take 90 seconds and list out all the energy vampires we can think of. Now, if you're watching the replay, set a timer for 90 seconds and do the same. Welcome back. How'd that go? All right, so choose one energy vampire from the list. Write it down in the box on our August worksheet. What is it about that energy vampire that you resent? Now, first things first, you have to admit to yourself that you resent whatever it is. Second step to a successful slaying is to catch yourself in the act of being resentful toward it. For our purposes today, I'm going to ask you to conjure it up. Get that feeling of resentment. All right, get it right there. Get it right here. Maybe, ooh, maybe right there. Now, this is the one that is most present right now. What or who is coming to mind? How do you let them or it rob you of your precious energy? How are you putting yourself in its path? And now, is it something you could easily slay, but you're in the habit of feeding it? The first step is noticing and writing down your resentments. In order for you to even use resentment, obviously you have to know that you're having it, right? So that has to happen. And if you admit it and you start noticing it, I need you to start writing it down. Carry a little notebook with you or log it in a document on your phone. Now, when you write down a resentment, I want you to be as specific as possible. We write it down and get real specific because it is really hard to create a solution for a problem that we're not clear on. One issue that comes up time and time again for my clients is their admission that they put their own needs off to get work done. I work with a large number of female solopreneurs who have big goals, and big goals don't happen by chance. Now, often a woman will come to me after she's dabbled with this diet and that diet. And in all honesty, she's gained even more weight and is beating herself up left and right for it. Now, I don't focus on weight, so I use air quotes. I focus on function, but weight is an issue that most women have been at war with for their entire lives. In working with me, we end that war. We become very at peace and we become allies with our own bodies. But body size, now it matters to an extent, but up to only a certain point. It's what you're made of that matters most. So let's use this scenario to create an internal boundary. You know your body must be fed nutritious food to be healthy. There are some baseline parameters: protein, healing fats, vitamins, minerals, fiber, etc. We want to avoid the garbage, processed foods, sweeteners, artificial colors, and down the line. We may set out with the best intentions to eat well, but then we get swamped. And per our habit, we don't prioritize what we eat. Drive through and delivery wins again. Or maybe your issue with meal planning and prep is that you may not know how to cook, or you don't have much creativity in the kitchen as of yet, and you get bored with what you cook all the time. Or maybe you need to level up your equipment with an Instapot or an air fryer. Both awesome additions, by the way. That I am a busy woman, and most of my clients are too. We don't have hours each day to shop, prep, cook, and eat our meals. In my ecosystem, I highly recommend batch cooking at minimum once per week, sometimes twice. I go over this in my courses and with clients. It is by far the best way to slay the energy vampires that thwart our best home cooked meal intentions. Reach out to me at hello@drsamgraber.com. That's DRSAMGRABER.com for more how-to guidance. Now, this is where this comes full circle. There's an energy vampire we're dealing with somewhere that is sucking the energy needed to prioritize eating nutritious meals. We each have our own version of a call-in. Now, this energy vampire must be slayed to free up energy for nutritious meal prep and enjoyment. Now we're going to move into the next section of our exercise together. What was one energy vampire from our list that takes up a few hours each week? A few hours that could be spent on meal planning, prep, and cooking. All right, so write that down. Now, what are some resentments you feel toward this energy vampire? Go ahead and just free form write. Just write and write, no editing. Give you a few more moments to do that. It's whatever's top of mind, just write it down. Excellent. You can always come back and add more. Now circle your most impactful resentment. Excellent. Okay, so now we're moving to section 1.3. We're going to use the question tree to find the solution. Yes or no, does it need to be done? Now this is for your energy vampire that you just circled. And yes or no, can someone or something else do this? And yes or no, would this be easier if I had the best equipment, assistance, tools, whatever it may be, that I can afford? Yes or no, am I doing too much for one person or a group of people? And our final yes or no, is someone exploiting my kindness, my hard work, or my passion? By batch cooking, you'll be better prepared for eating well, therefore refilling your personal energy tank. This tank is critical for a busy professional, especially one who may not have the most predictable of days. When you meal prep ahead of time, you won't have to spend but a few minutes reheating your meal versus trying to make a meal from scratch. Little caveat, please reheat in a glass container or ceramic, not plastic. All right, so this is a fantastic habit to add to your weekly routine. And this is just one way that you can leverage one habit to create many positive outcomes. In wrapping up this session on boundaries, we're going to put an accountability bow on it. So, in order to successfully slay my energy vampire, I will uphold the following internal boundary for the next 30 days. You're going to write that on your worksheet. And I want to be held accountable for doing so at our next rethink. Now, our next rethink in person is going to be on Tuesday, September 27th. Now, if you're joining us on YouTube, a great way to add in your own accountability is to find an accountability buddy. Now, that person is someone that you can send this video to along with forwarding them the worksheet PDF. If you need to get your hands on that worksheet, just find me on LinkedIn at Dr. Sam Graber, or you can contact me through my website at drsamgraber.com and just go to the contact part at my top menu and send me a message. To get the most out of this boundary setting exercise, complete this activity for your top 3 energy vampires. Do that sooner than later while this topic is fresh. And if you want to go over anything more specifically, I am happy to be a sounding board, as is all of the wonderful women in the Unraveling Together ecosystem. Feel free to join us at unravelingtogether.com or go to my website as well, again, drsamgraber.com, and join us through the link on my website. Until next time, take good care of yourself and each other.